Welcome to the Log Time Podcast. This go around we watched Welcome to Demon School, Iruma-kun. It's a heartwarming slice-of-life demon comedy series with a lot that just made us think, huh? Join us as we discuss tempering your expectations, whether or not a side cast should even exist, and the dread of unexpected familial musical numbers.
Iruma-kun.
Yeah, welcome to Demon School, Iruma-kun. What is there to be said about Welcome to Demon School, Iruma-kun? I know that as we were watching it, I got quite a lot of distressed messages from you on Discord about this. Maybe not distressed.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it distressed.
Yeah.
It was more of like a kind of confusion, but also like slight disappointment. Like, I don't really know what I expected Demon School Iruma-kun to be, but I kind of didn't get what I wanted, and it kind of made me sad because I felt like there was a good show in there, and not saying that it's a bad show by any means.
Sure.
But I think that there was a lot better show in there than what we got out of it.
I think I can kind of understand where you're coming from. I think the initial premise in and of itself is, kind of fun. Poor, sweet little human boy Iruma gets sold off by his parents to a literal demon who ends up becoming his sweet doting grandfather and sends him off to fucking demon school where he has to keep his human identity secret. That's a pretty good setup, all things considered. Like, there's a whole lot of potential there.
Yeah, you can do a lot of things with that.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the turn that they took with it, of it, being this kind of lighthearted, heartwarming comedy slice of life series, I don't think that is in and of itself a bad pick for this show.
No,
at all.
I think that was a really good direction. Like, I feel like that show in other places could be like really dark, like, and it'd be about like, the turmoil of like, coming from a human world where you've seen kind of all these bad things, but you have that against like the dissonance of like the demons that are nice comparative to the humans that you've seen. Like, I could feel like you could really probably go hard into that. And have like a whole story out of it, but it didn't do that, which that's fine. Like, I have no problems with, the lightheartedness. It's a nice, nice little break, like, sort of thing, where, it's just a fun show. You watch it, you have a good time. There's not really a lot of whole deep reckoning story behind it. Like, that's a cool idea. And I think maybe where you're going with this is that there's a lot of, there's not a problem with having that as a baseline, but how they did it was kind of weird. Like, and maybe not how they did it, but like some aspects of it felt a little out of place.
Yeah, I definitely want to ask, like, specifically just because you said even though you had no expectations going into this, you didn't come out of it with what you wanted. So I guess kind of along those lines, what is it that you really wanted out of this? Like, or quote-unquote wanted? You know what I mean?
Okay, so I guess, like, when I saw that it was going to be a fun story like this, I was just like, okay, well, we're going to have, like, some shenanigans, like, I think, like, the firework arc with the, I forget the guy's name, with the shield barrier.
Yeah, Amy.
Like that, I felt like that was the best arc of the show because I thought that's what the show was going to be like, the whole show. Like, yeah. I thought it was going to be like, we're going to be finding, people that are like, going against the grain or like.
Yeah, largely speaking, like, in this demon world of pretty decent folks, kind of isolating agents that are, trying to, as they say, go back to their roots, go back to basics, and trying to be like demon kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Yeah, I can definitely see the desire to kind of go to sort of different arcs like that. And realistically speaking, like that was a fairly long chunk of the show. I mean, it was,
I'd say
well,
probably 6 to 8 episodes, somewhere in
yeah,
there.
out of a 23 episode season, which
23 is a
is,
weird number, by the way.
it is a very weird number. I looked at the second season that's going to be airing here in a couple weeks, and it's a 21 episode season.
Okay.
So, you know,
Interesting.
we have a 44 total of this so far. So who fucking knows?
Interesting.
Yeah, but that is it's by far the longest arc in the show. And the thing about Iruma-kun is that so much of the show really leans into the very episodic slice of life sort of format. In that, you know, there are some episodes that are split down the middle with two completely different storylines that don't necessarily connect to each other. It's just kind of like, oh, here's another thing that's going on in, you know, the netherworld and things like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of to the point where I kept watching this and I was like, it's kind of, it feels like watching, you know, goofy ass Saturday morning cartoon, and that's not meant to be like, you know, a nag against it. I think that you know, kind of serves it well, but going and kind of hopping around from one thing to another with some very very light overarching plot elements to hold it together, and then hopping into again this very long form story arc just felt a little weird, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of jarring because yeah, there were a lot of one-off episodes before that, or like the ones that were split down the middle, and then some of them weren't, and then like it just kind of didn't have like a format. Like for the first, I would say, what, maybe 10 episodes. Like it kind of like
Yeah.
had like a slice of life format. Then there might be like a 2 episode arc, and then it
Mm-hmm.
might be like an episode that's like got half. It's like a two half blocks
Yeah.
of a story, and then the next one's a one-off episode. And then it's just like it was all over the place. Like, and I was like, I mean, no, I kind of like I like the vibe that it was going for. I was just watching and I'm like, man, this is weird. Like, it was just felt like I was being tossed everywhere in terms of like the cohesion was just really like, whoa.
As someone who, you know, I would say coming out of this, I thoroughly enjoyed my time with this show. I really liked it a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but um, it's definitely it's definitely a trust the process kind of thing. It's very much a little kind of just oh my gracious disjointed in how it puts everything together. But you know, if you kind of approach it as like, well, I'm just going to have some goofy, no stakes sort of fun for like 20 minutes or so, and I don't really care that much about how it tries to put itself together, then you're going to have a great time.
Yeah.
I'll give you that much.
Yeah, I really enjoyed. Like by the end of the show, I was like, you know what, that was a pretty decent show for what it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
It's not like revolutionary. Excuse me, revelationary.
We're just not able to talk tonight at all.
No. Apparently
Damn,
the
dog.
demons got like mixed in with my Bible, or something. But no,
The
I
Bible you use for the podcast.
yeah,
Oh no.
yeah,
The cat's out of the bag.
um, yeah, yeah. The podcast Bible. But yeah, I think the show is. I mean, it's not revolutionary, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. Like, I felt like there could have been maybe a little bit more character depth because I felt
Yeah.
like, and I kind of felt like I was being beaten to the head with what they had. It's like they had like two lines for each character, and they're like, you know what? We're going to just. That's what it's gonna be. Like
Yep.
that's their character. That's it. And I was like, and I was thinking about this too in the firework arc. The I don't remember his name. The villain, quote unquote. The
Curio.
yeah, him. Like,
What a weird development, dog.
yeah, that was something I kind of saw. I should have seen coming, but didn't because the show had not done anything up to that point to make me think it was going to do that. For number one, number two, um, that was just like, um, it was just really weird. Like, he had the most development of almost all the other characters in the show, which was really
Yeah.
weird because that's there wasn't really much of a development there either. But
No, there
whatever.
really wasn't. And I mean, the fact of the matter is, we were introduced to Kirio, the oh shit, the president of the like
Magical
artifact
apparatus or something.
apparatus, yeah, the magical apparatus battlers. They're clubs, but they call them battlers because whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but he's this kind of hapless, goofy, light-hearted, sweet dude that doesn't have a whole lot of magic and likes making shit, and he makes really good friends with Iruma. And there's literally nothing to indicate that he would be a major villain at all. And when we get this twist that he's been like recruited by one of the big bad demons, Ball, to help him blow up the entire fucking school.
Yeah,
And we
that
kind
was
of
0 to 100.
yeah, it was 0 to 100. But then when they went to talk about his backstory, there's this whole discussion about how he was shunned from his family because he didn't have a whole lot of magical power and things like that, and he wanted to get rid of the whole ranking system. And I was like, oh, okay, so like that kind of makes sense. I can see that as a motivation. But then when it's flipped to be like, I just love seeing people in despair because that's how demons used to be, and that's my core nature, I'm just like, okay, you've lost me there, actually. because this whole character motivation basically boils down to, I'm bad just because. And I'm like, wait, but you've had such an interesting arc, and now the motivation you have for this, the reason you're gonna give us is, I don't know, because? Like, come on, dog.
that was that was so wild because if you just analyze that whole backstory, it's like, okay, if they would have just left it at like, because they do this to a lot of backstories in the show, they just leave it as, oh, my parents were like this, or like, oh, by the way, parents are not good in this show
No,
generally.
they're not.
um uh, it's like, oh, my parents treated me like this, or they didn't like me, or all this, like, or they did something. That part, I was like, okay, well, that's kind of on track with the rest of the show. What I didn't expect was that then they added onto it, like you said, where they added onto that whole point where he's like, he meets this girl, and then like he gets bullied, and then he like rips off his horn to like compensate for losing her charm earring thing.
Yeah, from her
Like
grandmother.
it was just like, okay, like this is going a little off course. And then yeah, the whole thing where he's like, I love seeing people in despair. I was like, okay, that's that's not what I expected. This show is
Yeah,
going interesting places now. But
and
it was the only thing on the show that was like that, by the way. And I was just like, okay, interesting.
it was just so fucking weird because I mean, I would argue that in terms of any actual like major change in character, he's probably maybe on par with Iruma, because I mean, like, we get Iruma with quite a bit of arc. He doesn't really want to stand out. He's fucking terrified. He feels like he doesn't have any place here. And by the time we get to the end of the season, he fits right in. He feels like he has a sense of family and place and everything.
Hmm.
And it was really heartwarming to see how far he had come. And right behind him is Kirio, because he also had a huge amount of development. And I can't really say that any of the rest of the cast has anything remotely like that, because it's very a kind of one or two note, like Irma's friend Alice Asmodeus. You know, he is like the strongest demon in the school, and he's super antagonistic towards Irma, and tries to, you know, just wreck his shit on the first day of school. And Irma, having lived with hapless fucking idiot parents his whole life, has like, you know, this absolute critical evasion skill or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, he ends up, you know, making friends with Alice. And Alice is like, I'm gonna be the best bud, like your hand servant and shit like that. And the whole rest of his character, like, personality beyond that is like, hey, I'm pretty cool and powerful and proud, and I'm gonna use it to do cool shit for Iruma. And the other part of the Disaster Squad, Clara,
Disaster Squad,
is just a disaster. She's fucking stupid. I mean, she's not stupid, but she's kind of a dum dum.
She's a pretty big dum dum, but that's fine. I love her. She's great.
Yeah, she's a delight. But there's not a whole lot that really goes on. There's that whole weird episode where she tried to be like sexy or something.
Yeah, that was interesting.
With can I just kind of segue actually to the weird shit, because you mentioned, because we were talking about, you know, what you didn't really get out of the show, and we kind of sidestepped around, probably my fault, the like just weird shit in this show that kind of like gave us some pause. One of the weird things in this show was the odd amount of like focus on like sexy goofs and shit like that.
Yeah.
Like I'm just they are like first year high schoolers, and there's a whole like, you know, sexy club they can join, and it's like, hold on a sec. I understand that they're demons, and I get that. I understand they're succubi, and I get that. But I'm having a very hard time, like, taking the suspension of disbelief jump with you. That's fucking weird, dog.
I guess I didn't really have that problem with it. I had more of the problem with, was like, okay, why is this here?
That's what I'm saying. Like
it's just like I'm just like, I was trying to process it, and I'm like, okay, there's literal characters in this show that literally have purposes that they say, oh, like one sexy suggestive line an episode, and that's it. And I'm like, why are we doing that?
I know, and that's what I mean. Like, it's just, it doesn't make any sense to me why certain aspects like that exist in the show. Like, there's that one, God, her name's like Dosanko or something. Like, she's this fucking, like, I don't know, a slug-looking thing with one eye. It looks like she walked right out of Monsters, Inc. And the whole goof is like, she's really horny and very like love obsessed, but she's like quote unquote ugly or something, I guess. And it's just fucking,
it's weird.
So weird. And I like, it's obviously supposed to be taken as a joke, but every time I'm just kind of like, can we go now?
Yeah, you're wasting.
Just move on.
You are wasting my time.
Like, I'm just made uncomfortable by this.
Well, it was just weird, because it would be like in the middle of like, oh, they're running around the castle, you know, everyone's about to die, and then she's like, oh no, I kissed the glass. Oh no. Yeah, and I'm just like, you got bigger problems right now.
But that's please. And that's one of the other things too. You know, the show doesn't have literally any stakes to it. And so while I appreciated that they tried to do something with like the fireworks festival arc sort of thing, where there was some dramatic tension there, quote unquote, there still were absolutely no stakes, and there was so much weird shit like that continued to just, you know, chip away and detract from any sense of any stakes that it had, that I was just like, again, why even try to do this if there's literally no reason anyone is going to look at this and believe that there is any potential crisis here.
No, there,
like, what's
there wasn't. I liked it, but I knew that I'm like, oh, this is going to resolve just fine, because I'm like, this is just, this is how the show's been. There's no stakes, so.
Yeah, and I'm not looking to say that the show should, change and have stakes, because I appreciate it
For
in
what
part
it is.
because
Yeah.
there absolutely are no stakes, and it's, just a really sweet, heartwarming show to watch. But, like, it's like, maybe try to figure out what exactly it is you want to do here, because it feels like it's stretching itself out in a lot of weird different directions.
Yeah, and that's kind of what the whole show kind of felt like to me. Like, it just felt like in several aspects there were just like, there was a cohesive idea, but how that idea worked in the flow of things was really just everywhere. It was like it was like you had sat down, like you had a writer and they sat down and wrote the show. Like, this is what we need to do. And they had like general plot beats. And then you had like 18 directors like come in and do their own little thing. Like, and they're like, oh, let's do the episode like this, or oh, let's do the episode like this. Like, they couldn't agree on it, so they're like, well, fine, we'll just give everybody a section and they can do it their own way. That's kind of what it felt like. I don't know if that's the case, but
yeah, it was just kind of, it feels very unfocused, because a lot of things are brought up and then kind of never really approached again. Like, for instance, the whole thing where Iruma summons, he ends up turning his homeroom teacher, Nabarius, into his familiar, and that's like, they make a huge fucking deal out of this, but it's maybe only addressed in like 2 episodes in this whole season.
Yeah.
And that, felt like a weird one-off goof that, maybe could have been expanded on a little bit, but again, they didn't really do anything with it. And there's a huge side cast, for instance. Like, there's a lot of fucking kids here, but
right.
They also are like literally one personality, and we get like a few sidelines from them, and that's like it. So it's almost to the point of like, what's the fucking purpose of y'all exactly? To like have some background flavor or something? Like, I guess that's fine, but we could have had more development with them, probably. And
yeah,
I don't know, man. It's just,
I really wanted to see some more development out of the side characters. I didn't get that either, and I was just like, okay, well, this is sad. I mean, I like the main trio we got going on here, but I also like, if we're going to put these other characters in the show and give them voice lines like almost every episode, let's do something with them, because this is just sad.
I was happy that we at least got some development for Crokel, the secret idol girl, and out of student council president, Ameri. She is a fucking delight. I love the idea of this huge Amazonian, like, absolute kick-ass demon student council president who just has a treasure trove of confiscated, forbidden human manga as contraband in her room, and she just fucking adores it. Like, I eat that kind of shit up.
Yeah, that was very good. I would agree with that.
But that was like it for sidecast characters.
Yeah, and there wasn't a lot of screen time for any of those examples you just listed either. Like, yeah, there was more than the others, but it wasn't a lot.
Well, I mean, like with Crokel, like, she was kind of there, I guess, but the whole fucking time we maybe got a handful of like little crumbs of her, maybe each episode, and then it's suddenly like, okay, well, it's the last 3 episodes. I guess we'll have a 2-episode arc about her because we have to get to the end of our 23 episode season run, I guess.
Yeah, it's just really weird.
Yeah, it's a shame because like there's a lot of very interesting looking side characters, and I feel like they could do some fun stuff with them. But right now, they really just kind of feel like they just kind of feel like flavor text, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. it's just like, oh, it's there for, just for that little itty bitty spice, just to give the show like the texture.
Yeah,
I don't know if that made it any clearer, but
they're basically just there to make it feel like, Iruma is in a class of, dumb, weird misfits. And they do enough of their job so it doesn't feel like it's literally just about the disaster trio. And I mean, it is just about the disaster trio. But the rest of the class is able to keep up enough of a facade, I think.
Yeah, just enough that, like, oh, yeah, if we do need someone to do something, we got some backstory for. I say backstory very liberally.
Like, it's we can do something with them.
We have an idea for them.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty much what that show felt like. Going back to the fireworks arc again, shout outs to whoever wrote that, because you literally just wrote the plot of Danganronpa in like one of the episodes. Like, I don't know how they managed to do that, but that was amazing. I was like, wow, I've read this before. This is not the same show that this plot originated in.
No, it's not, but it managed to make it a pretty fun little romp.
Yeah. Danganronpa.
Oh, fuck. Oh, no.
Oh, you set yourself...
That's not what I meant to do at all.
Oh, you set yourself up for that one. Beyond that, like, yeah, I wonder what they're going to do with the second season. I'm interested.
Because, I mean, at the very end of the last episode, they kind of hinted, like, ooh, there's going to be some weird trouble shit, because, like, Iruma, like, looks a little cranky and seems to be, like, slowly becoming a demon, or having, like, a second personality or something like that, so...
And how long do you think that'll last?
Yeah, well, who fucking knows, man? I don't know.
It could be... I guess it could be a half episode, or it could be 8. I guess we don't really know.
Yeah. Yeah, I really don't know. I don't know. I'm thinking that I would be willing to give the second season a watch, just because, this was a pretty comfy show for me, all things considered, and realistically speaking...
I think it'd be fun to watch weekly.
Yeah, that's the thing. I didn't have any necessarily, like, trouble plowing through a lot of this at once. It's very easily watchable, but I do think it would be more fun to just have on a very small, digestible basis, because at its core, I love watching shows about, sweet, kind-hearted folks having fun shit happen, and it fills my heart up a little bit. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I can appreciate that.
You like it, the fun dum-dum shows.
I like it, the fun dum-dum shows. Yes, I do. I'm almost a 30-year-old man, and I like it, the fun dum-dum shows. It does good things for me.
Yeah. Well, this one didn't make my heart fucking melt, so... Yeah. It also didn't make me cry. So I guess that's a positive... to most people, I guess.
Yeah, this is, it's not Your Lie in April, and it's not like, Gekkan Shoujo Nozaki-kun or anything. It's somewhere, like, in the middle, I guess.
That is the weirdest comparison of this show that we, like, out of all the weird things we've said on this podcast, that was probably the most obscure comparison. It's between Your Lie in April and Gekkan Shoujo Nozaki-kun.
I feel like that's appropriate for the show. I feel as though making a completely absurd comparison that feels very out of place and not at all thought out is perfect for this.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I kind of got what you meant when you said that, weirdly enough. Yeah.
Oh, you just said it didn't make you cry, and so I was like, there we go.
Yeah.
So.
It's a pretty alright show. It's pretty mid, I would say. I liked it.
Yeah, I would say it's, it's slightly above average. It's fun and pretty watchable if you're in the mood for something really chill that you can absolutely just turn your brain off for.
Oh, I do want to mention, okay, I don't know if you probably noticed this, because this, to add to the kind of like weird collection before we end the podcast, the weird collection of shit. So were you like kind of weirded out by like Clara's singing family?
I wasn't weirded out by that. I was absolutely delighted. I loved all 3 of their fucking song and dance performances. It was one of the highlights of the show for me.
I'm not going to say I disliked it, but man, after each one got done, I kind of just paused and just like stopped for a minute and thought about it. I was like, what just happened?
You just needed to decompress a little bit after that.
Yeah, it was like not what I was expecting, and not only that, it was just like I needed a moment to just to digest and compress the like 2 minutes of screen time that just happened. You know, kind of like when someone says some like goes on like a really dumb monologue, and you just kind of sit there like, wow, that just happened. Like that's what I felt like. And I was like, okay, I mean, this is fine. It's on point. In character. It just was like, that still shocks me every time.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like, you know, watching a whole song and dance routine of a bunch of absolute gremlins that ends with them, like, doing a tribal dance around a cauldron full of food. And just essentially just screaming nonsense. It really does wonders for your mental health, I guess. I don't know.
I was just like, Matt, don't think about it too hard. Don't think about it too hard. Don't try to comprehend it. Just go with it.
Oh, man.
So, but it was funny. I have to admit that it definitely made me laugh.
Yeah, I would agree.
But yeah, I wanted to throw that out there because that was definitely something that needed to be addressed, I felt like.
Yeah, it's very special. It's special. I think that's about the best thing I can say.
Yeah. But yeah, show's pretty alright.
Yeah.
It was a fun show.
Comfy, cozy, goofy demon shit.
Yep.
If that doesn't sell you, you're not gonna miss much.
It's not like we're sponsored by them to sell this thing. So for a mystery garbage pit pick, that was all right.
Yeah, honestly, again, I'm always coming out of these sorts of things just grateful we didn't get supreme trash.
Yeah.
It wasn't, you know, we haven't been as low as Death March.
For a while.
And yeah, for quite a while.
Granted, that was pretty low, so, like, we're setting the bar, you know, down there at this point.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, we can get some perfectly, as you say, mid shit here, as opposed to, you know, something truly suffering, and I'm happy for that.
Yeah.
Well, we'll say that, and then the next one we're gonna get is gonna be awful. So
you keep saying that, but it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, well, one of these days it will.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sticking around and for chatting with us for a bit. And I guess we'll see y'all next time.
Yep. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. As always, you can find all our podcasts, articles, videos, etc. at thebacklogers.com. Our intro and outro song is The Bear by Shell in the Pit, who you can find on Spotify and Bandcamp. And we'd love to hear from y'all in the comments on our site, on the podcast platform of your choice, or by being uncomfortably sexual. Actually, scratch that last one. And as always, we're on Twitter at @the_Backloggers, so pull up a log and stop in for a bit.